Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have the great privilege of visiting with Shattari, whose distinct sci-fi builds are well known in the Landmark community. He is our first guest as Landmark kickstarts another year of visiting with some of the incredible builders in Landmark. All right, Shattari, so tell us a little bit about your sci-fi builds and what inspired and motivated you to do them here in Landmark.
Well, I've always been a sci-fi fan. Like, that's my favorite genre. The first movie I ever saw was Star Wars, and my favorite sci-fi at the time right now is Mass Effect. And so most of the stuff I build is kind of influenced by those two, like super high-tech and magical high-tech kind of things. And Landmark's perfect for building sci-fi, I think.
All right, Shattari, in your builds, is there any particular type of theme that you go by? Or do you just kind of go by the concepts and ideas that you kind of feel at the time?
Well, there is kind of a theme in the fact that I want everything to look really clean and slick. Like, I want everything to look kind of like it's supposed to be together, but also have like its own little interesting nook and crannies throughout the build. Like, I have a mental idea of what I want to build, and it's generally sci-fi, and then I just kind of go in and kind of almost make it up as I go along when I get to the details. But I always try to keep like everything having a kind of a smooth interaction. Like, I don't like anything to have, if you look around, like, I have a lot of straight lines, a lot of straight angles and straight curves, and then I just kind of keep it simple looking like that. I guess that's the overallness of it. To me, it's simple.
So looking at your builds, one of the things that really kind of stands out in ways when we look at this is that it has an arcing theme of both Blade Runner and anime.
Yeah, I'm definitely an anime fan. Macross was one of my favorite stories of all time, and I like the the incredible imagination that comes out through anime. Like, just any kind of possible thing you can think of. And then, like with like you said, the Blade Runner. I definitely like that kind of aspect where it's almost so real that the grit is on everything, or kind of like in Aliens, where everything was completely realistic. And that's kind of what I try to shoot for, is to like reach into my imagination and pull out as crazy as stuff as I can, and then make it seem real. Like, have the build be so complete and so smooth that you can almost believe that this is a real structure.
Okay, Shattari, in between our takes, there's so much to discuss about your builds here. And one of the things we were talking about was the fact that when I'm doing my production and content creation, I'm always thinking about what I like that other people do. It's not so much that I try to imitate them, but I want to produce something that's likable, because obviously you want to do something that's likable. Does your builds follow that type of logic, that type of ideology?
Yeah, probably so. And I would say that foremost, I build stuff that I like, but what I do is I hope that other people are going to like the things that I like. Like, I'll have an idea, and to me, it looks incredible in my head, and I'm thinking, if I build this, other people are going to think it looks incredible too. And one of my main things with building is to show it to people. Like, I want other people to see it, and I want them to be like, hey, that's a good idea, I'm going to go do that too. And that's happened a couple times. People have come and checked out my stuff and go, I'm going to go build sci-fi too. And that's really good. That's a great goal for me, is to get other people thinking, this looks cool and I want to do it.
One of the things that really stands out as I've seen all of your builds is scale. I mean, these things are massive. What are your thoughts behind building them that way? Is it kind of like creating a city within a build? And what is it like getting the materials for these things?
Well, it's a lot easier to get the materials now. I build with a lot of white, so that stucco is free at this point. But before, it was a process to get those materials. And for building on the scale, I like to build on that scale. I like to use a lot of repeating patterns, and that gives it kind of like a more realistic feel. When you're moving through it, I want you to go from section to section, like a city, and see the different areas of it. Like, even this build, it's got a bar, it's got an apartment, it's got two work in progress shops down below. It's got a landing pad for the ship and a big skyscraper off on the side, and that's supposed to make you feel like you're coming into an area. It's not just a house. It's a section of a town or a city or something. It's a place you want to explore and find all the little nooks and crannies.
Shattari, most people know you for your sci-fi builds, but there was this Karen build that you entered into the competition. What can you tell me about it?
Well, I wanted to do the competition just because it's a competition, and I thought it would be fun. But I learned more from building this than most of my sci-fi stuff, because I had to go outside of what I was used to doing. And a lot of the little techniques and things I had to learn how to do to make this look the way I wanted it to look, I now use when I'm building sci-fi stuff all the time. And this is one of my favorite builds. It's not sci-fi in the theme necessarily, but for me this would fit right in, like, my kind of love for the Star Wars sci-fi. This looks like something I could have right next to a sci-fi build and not feel completely out of place. I mean, because it's so complex. It is really one of my favorite builds, and building this took a couple of months, but I was so proud of it when I was done with it, because I just loved the way it looked. So above us is the cloth that we used to make when we were making Karens, and you can see it's not a perfect curve, but it's convincing as cloth. But the tools continually get better, and there was a change they made to the delete tool recently that let us cut things in such a way that was way smoother than before. And doing that, there's a way that you can cut a sphere to make a new trick that was discovered where you can make these perfectly round rings, and it's really easy to do. Anybody could do it. And that kind of improvements to the tools is making tricks, things like this that used to be tricks that were hard for people to do, easy for anyone to do. And there's other things, too, that are getting more simplified with the tools all the time. Not necessarily simplified, but making the tools work in a way that's more intuitive. Like, they don't mess up the voxels around each other as often as they used to when you delete. And that lets people, display what they want to. It's really hard for people to make exactly what they want, but the better the tools get, the closer people get.
All right, so tell us a little bit about this spaceship creation here.
Well, this is based on the artwork they gave us for the Talkish Elves that were going to be in EverQuest Next. And I wanted to do something that was more fun and not stressful. Like, just wanted to have fun with something, because the Karen build was stressful to get that built and judged and all of that. So with this, when I first saw the art, the first thing I thought when they put the pillars up there is that they looked like warp nacelles from Star Trek, and the elves were supposed to be spacefaring, so it just all came together. Like, the name of this ship is The Logical Conclusion. And so, I just did it to be fun, and one of my reasons for Landmark, getting in Landmark when I first heard about it, was, there's a game that they're going to be making a game with. So, the things that you build in that game will be in a video game. So this is kind of like the things with the workshop, and even just Landmark itself. Everything you build in Landmark is in a game. But to build things that might get put into a game, like this ship, maybe someday, is really fascinating to me. 'Cause my love for video games pretty much surpasses just about any other kind of hobby I could have, except for my artwork. And so here they fuse. So, if I get to make art that's going to go in a game, to me that's like the apex of a hobby.
All right, Shattari, as we wrap this up, what would you like people to walk away from after they see your builds?
Well, I would like people to think that, they could nearly anything you can imagine, you can make in this game. If you just spend enough time hammering voxels into the shape that you want, you can pretty much reach into your imagination and just shape the world around you into that shape, almost completely, to an extent, with some of the fidelity of little tiny stuff. But on a larger scale, you can really realize your imagined worlds, regardless of whether they're sci-fi or fantasy or steampunk or whatever. Those things you can do here, and I think that is probably one of the coolest things about this game, and one of the things that makes this game's potential, one of the coolest things that we've had as a video game since we've had video games.
We're very happy that we had this opportunity to finally get together with Shattari. I've always been captivated by his work. I'm impressed with not only his artistry, but his humility and generosity. You can find his remarkable builds in the player gallery. They are very much worth the visit. Thanks for watching, everyone, and especially my Landmark subscribers who may have been wondering if I shifted gears to focus on H1Z1, but fret not. I'm still covering Landmark, so be sure you stay tuned, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe so you'll have all the latest news from Landmark.